What's up, everybody? We are back for another immediate reaction pod. The Bears beat the Lions 24-14 in a game that didn't feel as close as the score indicated. The Bears pull it off. Um, you know, Obviously the biggest news is the Montgomery injury. That did not look good. Other than that, though, I think we can sort of save that. Let's sort of immediate reactions from the game. What were some of the thoughts that you had while watching this, Jack?
uh Justin Fields is a legit quarterback one. Like any concerns, any doubts. I get it's against the Lions, but listen, the throws that he was making in during that game were not just because they were playing the Lions. Like the Lions had some they had some good pressure. Again, maybe that says more about the Bears offensive line than it does about the the Lions. But I like just this the deep ball accuracy, everything we
Yeah,
heard, that was Mitch's, like, that was one of the biggest reasons they kept saying they drafted him, and we just never really saw it. With Justin, man, he's dropping it in the buckets.
yep,
I mean, he hit Mooney. I would have loved to have seen them get at least a touchdown throw on the board for Justin Fields because,
I
anyone
agree.
who didn't watch the game, they were maybe watching Red Zone or they were watching any of the other number of games. They're going to take a look and be like, yeah, that's a pretty average game for Justin Fields. It's like, dude, no, you had to watch that game to
Yeah.
really understand how well he played,
Yeah,
right?
and even so, the throw that was the most impressive to me, and I actually thought it should have been a pass interference on the defense, that post route to Cole Kmet, where he just anticipated where he should have been. If he and I didn't see the replay on it, but I'm like positive when I saw that live that Cole Kmet got held, and had he not, he would have
Yeah,
been in that corner. I mean, that was perfectly placed where it needed to be.
there
It
were
wasn't an
some.
overthrow. Like they scripted
Yeah,
that. That's where it was. That's where, and it was just obviously it wasn't just a regular incompletion, but it's like little stuff like that that we just didn't see. And again, it feels like you're sort of like talking shit about your ex girlfriend when you talk about Mitch, but it's like you almost have to. It was the same exact scenario pretty much. We traded up for a kid that had a lot of talent. Obviously, Mitch being inexperienced and Justin not. We just like see it with him, man. It's like the accuracy on these throws, the anticipation on these throws, and the offense. Like I didn't have too many takeaways with the offense. It was clear that Bill Lazor was calling the plays
yeah. Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
there was a rhythm to it. And that's the thing that that me and you were telling people all week. It's like it's not that we're like, oh man, Bill Lazor, the offensive genius. It's just like he's gonna do the basic shit that gets this offense to move the ball,
Yeah,
and that's all we've asked Nagy to do. Is he's rolling Justin out a little bit. The very first drive, there were 6, 7 men on the line, like they're protecting him early. You only have 2 or 3 routes, being run. And it's like it's just really basic stuff, really committing to the run. Like that's today is what committing to the run looks like. What the Bears did against the Rams when Monty went for like 150 in a blowout was not committing to the run. That was
yeah,
Nagy saying like, "Here, shut the fuck up. I ran the ball." And it's like you just tell the difference. And it was funny because after the first 2 pass plays, they were curl routes, and I was like, "Oh no." Nagy's calling the plays here. But then as I started to see within that first drive there be rhythm, I was like, oh no, this is not Matt Nagy. We never we,
yeah.
we never had this type of rhythm. So that was sort of my takeaway there. But I mean, Justin Fields, all in all, looked very impressive to me. I mean, he just has the arm talent, but not only that, you can see him start to really adjust to the speed of the game. Like he's getting it out a little bit quicker. He's reading his reads are a little bit quicker, and that just comes with the reps. And that's exactly why we were pissed off that he wasn't starting week 1 because he may even be there now by
Yeah,
week 4 because he
yeah.
picks stuff up really quick, man.
See, and this is we talked about this before week one. This was the game that I thought Justin Fields should have been starting regardless of
Right,
what Andy
right.
Dalton looked like, and this is why. Like this was the perfect game for him to kind of get into that sort of rhythm. And yeah, I mean, it's Bill Lazor calling the plays when the Bears have 3 rushing touchdowns. Like let's just call it what it was. But I liked I actually liked a lot of the creative things that they were doing. I mean, Wildcat?
Yeah. Yep.
When was the last time the Bears used Wildcat and not only used it, but used it effectively? Right? They
Yeah.
got some open space plays, like and Justin Fields, I'm telling you, man, he was dropping passes into the bucket. Like that's
Yes.
exactly the
The ball
accuracy you
placement,
wanted to see.
amazing.
That's elite. That's elite. And I
Yep.
texted you a little joke, and I said, "Man, that hitch in Justin Fields' throw just sucks." And it's just, well, it's almost crazy. It's almost like he doesn't have an issue throwing the
It's
football
so
when he
weird
has
that that was a
time.
thing.
He has time to throw it. He has guys that were making plays. I super happy that Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson both really stepped up. I mean, Allen Robinson was making catches that really kind of won this game. What I will say, Frank, my only issue with the offense, and then maybe we can touch on the defense a little bit,
Yep.
because
Yep.
yeah, saw some things I didn't like, but on the offensive side, I mean, that's about as well of a bounce back game as you can get. Obviously, 24 points is a lot better than 6. Um, I didn't love the way they closed out the game.
I didn't either.
Before the final drive. The final drive was good. Obviously, they got the first down they needed, but we see it all the time, man. This is just it's a classic Bears game where they're playing really well first half, and then they take a lead, and then they start getting a little too conservative. I would have liked to have seen them keep pushing the ball. Look at what the Bills were doing, man. Like they're blowing out the Houston Texans like nobody's business, and then they still drop 40 points on them. That's the next step that the Bears need to take offensively. So that was probably my only gripe, obviously, other than David Montgomery probably going to be out for a while. That would be my guess.
I know, and that's what I was going to say. That's what we can get to really quick before we do move on to the defense, because it looked bad. And I know just before we started recording, neither of us have seen like tweets or any sort of confirmation. The biggest takeaway for me for that was that the TV broadcast did not show the replay. And when they don't show the replay, that's usually indicative of a pretty nasty injury. Like it got twisted up. I mean, because we've even seen, if you remember, last season when Saquon Barkley tore his ACL, he sort of like cut hard and you saw his calf sort of jiggle and they were like, oh yeah, that doesn't look good. But they showed the replay. It didn't look that bad. It was like, it could be a knee, it could be a calf strain.
Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday night when DJ Chark goes down, they like really like zoom in and they're like, let's slow it down so we can.
And it's like,
so when Gus Johnson is like,
they'll show the injuries, and when they decide not to, it's like, it probably got twisted up pretty bad, and it was nasty to look at. So, but really, my only thoughts with that is that if you all remember in our regular podcast just before the season started, the running back group was one that we were really excited about. Like Damian Williams looked really good in Montgomery's absence this game, and this is why we were excited about it, because running back is a position that, unfortunately, injuries happen. Like they make a lot of contact, whether it's running the ball, whether it's blocking for the quarterback. And it's unfortunately it's next man up, but the next man up I think is really good. So I don't think he's as good as Montgomery, but I think we have the depth, and not for nothing, Herbert is a solid runner too. My only issue now though was like, what the hell is going on with Tariq Cohen? Because now we really need him.
So he was placed on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform.
Okay,
so I think he's out until week 6.
Okay.
Because I was
and then they get to make the evaluation to put him on the IR, right?
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing, because I was like, we haven't really seen an update from Tariq Cohen for a while. So I think he's out till week 6, which obviously hurts. If I'm being honest, Frank, I mean, I'm not happy that David Montgomery's hurt, but I mean, if this forces the Bears to have to throw the ball a little bit more, get him some experience, get Justin Fields some passing yards, I'll take it.
I mean, you won't be saying that when Ryan Nall is taking 32s, baby, because it's coming, always coming. But let's switch over to the defense before we get out of here. I have a ton of notes on the whole game, so when the full length podcast comes out, you'll get much more in depth from this. Everyone that's listening, watching on YouTube. I mean, point blank for me, man, the secondary remains to be bad. Like if Jared Goff was a good or a solid quarterback, we would have lost this game. Like he missed so many throws on pretty wide open, or if not just NFL wide open receivers, and it's. The secondary continues to be in shambles, but the front seven continues to look good. The one, this is my worry with the front seven, though, and I'll throw it to you. The only person that seems to be able to create his own pressure, just like on base, we're rushing just the 4 front guys, is Robert Quinn. And it's like, I'm not seeing Mac get home unless it's on a stunt or unless it's, a blitz, and then they sort of confuse the lineman as to who they need to block. I want to see a little bit more from Mac one-on-one, because Quinn, that first step seems to be back. Like, I think it's pretty clear that, the reports were confirmed now, for me anyway, that like he was hurt last year.
Yeah.
I know he was dealing with the shoulder and a bunch of other stuff. Like, he's healthy and he looks damn good.
Yeah.
And I just like, I still love the creativity from Sean Desai. I just don't want the defense to be reliant on that, because I don't think we have the talent to continue to do that. Like, we don't have the secondary to continue to blitz like that. You know what I mean? Like, so that's my worry with it. But point blank, I mean, we're just still not a good team. Like, when we beat these types of teams, it's like, okay, we're not bottom of the barrel, right? It's like we're above that. But
they Frank, if we're being 100% honest, like they realistically should have lost this game. Like,
I agree.
If it wasn't the Lions, if the Lions didn't stay true to like, it boggles my mind how franchises like the Lions and the Browns, like, and obviously the Browns are a little bit different right now, but it boggles my mind. Like, they change over GMs, they change over head coaches, quarterback, whatever. They're still the same team. Like, the play at the goal line on the first drive when
the fumble,
Jared Goff just fucking hits him in the face,
yeah.
And then Bilal Nichols is just like, oh yeah, free interception, I'll take it. Like, you can't go to the red zone that many times and not score points. Like, like I said, if the Bears are playing anyone else, they definitely lose this game. So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves in the sense that the Bears back on track, Super Bowl team. Like, to me, and I was talking to some other friends about this who are not Bears fans, and they were like, look at the Bears, playing hard to save Nagy's job. And I'm like, look, I think the fact that Bill Lazor is calling a competent offensive game plan is almost indicative of how bad of a coach Matt Nagy is on the play calling side. Like, that's almost reason enough to fire him, because it's like, you really couldn't do this with this team. You couldn't do this. You know what I mean? So
I know, it's just,
but on the defense side, I'll get to that, and then I'll let you finish your last point. Yeah, I totally agree. Like, the secondary is really bad tackling again. Eddie Jackson is the worst tackler I've ever seen. Like, he's just really bad at it. Yeah, Robert Quinn, obviously good to see him getting pressure. I love Travis Gibson finally kind of like showing up. I mean, he looked really, really good, really athletic. Roquan Smith, I mean, he's just a baller, man. Like, just get him in the game.
Beast, man.
Yeah, he is a guy. Like, he is a star player.
100%.
I love that we didn't really see Jalen Johnson's name called a lot, but it continues to be, Duke Shelley, Deion Bush, like, just these guys were just not meant to be starting or playing a lot of football. Like, they need starters, and these guys just, Vildor, he had an okay game, but there's a lot left to be desired from that cornerback 2 spot, Frank.
I totally agree. I mean, Shelley made a decent play on Hawkinson. Bush made a decent tackle, but it's like you're picking so far in between to pick out the couple of good plays that they make throughout the year. It's like it's clear that we need upgrades at those positions, and one's in Denver right now. But the last thing for me, and this is something that I said before the season, if you remember, Jack, was like, I'm not falling for these games anymore. These are the games where the Bears look competent, they look all right, and you're like, okay. And we know Nagy wasn't calling the plays today, but just generally speaking, it's like, all right, maybe Nagy figured something out. Maybe we got a little something. Maybe Mitch isn't too bad because he beat the Lions, right? It's like, we've said that in the past, and I literally said that before week 1. I was like, we know we're going to win these games. Because that's what he does. Like, Nagy beats the bad teams or even the average teams, but it's when it's time to step up against the Rams, when it's time to step up against the Browns, when it's time to step up against these good teams, not only do we fall short, we look incompetent. It's not just like, oh man, it's that one play that we got to get over. It's that one little thing. Like, we can't close games. Like, no, it's always like we look terrible. You know what I mean? And I'm not falling for it, man. I think where I'm at with it is I think the only way that Matt Nagy saves his job is if he literally permanently gives up play calling and he tells ownership, I'm going to find a play caller. Like, I can lead men. You see, they're still playing for me. Let me find you a play caller and let me stay here. And honestly, if that's the case, I wouldn't mind if he stood. But if he is still dead set on only letting Lazor call the plays for X amount of games this year and then taking it back over either this year or next year if he's here, we can't do that.
Yeah, I this is why it always felt silly to us. We had talked about this on the podcast, and we were texting about it throughout the week when we didn't find out who the starting quarterback was till yesterday. This is why we said it was silly that the Bears needed all of this misdirection and stuff. Like, dude, it's the Lions. Like, you know, if your full strength can't beat them, like then we have a serious problem. And honestly, Frank, it was a closer game than it should have been. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what they look like next week against the Raiders. I'm assuming Bill Lazor will continue calling plays. I don't know how Matt Nagy takes back play calling after a game like this where looks competent. The offensive line looked pretty solid. They gave up a few pressures, but there weren't obvious. Just obviously he didn't get sacked 9 times. So. I would say if I were to grade this game, it'd probably be like a B-, with the offense doing a lot of the work because the defense, they got lucky. Let's be real.
Yeah,
they got lucky a lot of times with just the Lions being who they are. So, we still need to see more. But overall, a win's a win. 2-2. They're what, second place? Because the Lions lost, the Vikings lost again. I mean. 2-2 is what it is. We'll kind of see what they do from here. But I mean, Justin Fields looked like a legit quarterback. So everyone who was worried last week, you can come back on the bandwagon. We'll allow it.
Yeah, 100%. And even if again, I'll continue to make that point. Even if he looked just as bad as he did last week, which I most of that wasn't on him. Like this season, just get him reps. I don't give a fuck what he looks like this season. It's encouraging to see the good plays that he's making. Yeah, of course. But it's just you have to get him reps. We're already seeing the incremental improvement. Me and you have talked about how much Trevor Lawrence, how much better he's looked from week 1 to now because he's getting the reps. Get the kid the reps. Throw him out there. If he happens to wind up just being great in his first year and we make the playoffs, hell, let's do it. But just get him out there and let's play. So that is everything from us, man. Obviously, it's a very different tone when we're not angry. I think our angry podcasts are probably more entertaining and more fun. But it's also like this was just a win against the Lions. If we eke one out next week like this against against Las Vegas, I'm gonna be excited. I'm gonna be jacked up. But it's like, what are we supposed to do here, man? Coming off a week like last week and just like putting together a competent game plan to beat probably the worst team in the league, you're not gonna get much out of us, I don't think. But stay tuned. Regular pod dropping on Wednesday morning. And I'm gonna organize my notes, really kind of flesh through, more in depth what I saw from Justin Fields, what I saw from the offensive game plan, Jackie as well. And then I don't know how much more we even have to say about the defense. They just kind of are what they are at this point. It's like a really good front 7 and a really good back 4. I mean? So
that's pretty much it.
Maybe not too much there, but thank you guys for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, share. This one is only on YouTube, but our other, the full length podcasts are on YouTube and everywhere else. So subscribe there as well. Thanks everybody. Jackie, it has been a pleasure, man. Talk to you in a couple days.
Talk to you later, Frankie.